Do you know where you can find the 1,000 plus cone-shaped hills? Or do you know where the world's smallest primates are found? Or do you know where the Philippines signed its first international treaty of friendship with the foreign country? Or do you know who was the former Philippine president who implemented the Filipino First policy? Well, those can all be found or from the Bohol, Philippines. There are a lot of beautiful things that we can admire in the island. But what about the other side of the coin? Is it always so clean?
ika-15 ng Oktubre 2013.
Ang malawakang pinsala na idinulot ng lindol sa mga bayan ng Buena Vista at Inabanga sa Bohol.
It is during 2013, an earthquake that changed the Boholanos' lives. It changed the way they live. And the earthquake affected over 1.2 million people with 222 fatalities. At least 976 were reported injured. 8 individuals were reported missing, and over 79,000 structures, including home, road, churches, school, and public buildings, were damaged. After looking at both sides of the coin, we can have to acknowledge the details of it. We can view Bohol in a lot of perspective. First, let's deep dive into the anthropological perspective. The major dialect spoken in the province is Boholano, which is closely related to the Cebuano dialect. Of a total household population, 97% spoke Boholano at their earliest childhood.
Imagine a secret language spoken by a small group of people on the island in the Philippines called Bohol. This language is called Iskayan, and it's super different from the language spoken by everyone else on the island. The Iskayan people have their own special way of writing too. It's like a code with over 1,000 symbols. A scientist named Dr. Pierre Skelly, a linguistic anthropologist, studied the Iskayan language and found out some interesting things. He thinks that the Iskayan people made up their language a long time ago. They did this to protect their culture and because they didn't want to be ruled by other countries. It's like they created their own secret language so they could understand each other without other knowing what they were saying. Dr. Kelly wrote a book about the Iskayan language, and he hopes that more people will learn about it and help to keep it alive.
After the anthropological perspective, let's move on to sociological perspective. Bohol's people are said to be the descendants of the last group of inhabitants of the country called Pentados, meaning the Tadod ones. Bohol was the site of a blood compact, considered in the Philippines as its first international treaty of friendship with the foreign country, between a local chieftain and a Spanish conquistador, Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, in 1565. It was during this regime that several big stone churches were built which still stand today, attesting to Bohol's colonization and Christianization.
Bohol, Philippines is a place where family and community are incredibly important. Most people live in rural areas and make their living through farming and fishing. Catholicism is a main religion, but their culture also includes older traditions from the Iskaya tribe. The Iskaya are a small group of people in Bohol, Philippines, with a unique culture and language. When they first became known in 1980, there was a lot of guessing about their origins and language. Some people even thought their language was made up or that they came from the Middle East. Iskaya stories say their language and writing were given to them by a legendary ancestor, while the exact history is unclear. Research suggests their language developed relatively recently. Today, they're officially recognized as an indigenous group, but their language and culture are sadly declining. However, there are efforts to keep them alive. Because of its beautiful scenery like the Chocolate Hills, tourism is a big part of the economy, which influences how people live and interact.
After the sociological perspective, let's move on to political perspective. During the Spanish regime, two significant revolts occurred in Bohol. One was a tumbled offspring in 1621, led by the native priest of 𝐵𝒪𝐻𝒪𝐿. The other was the Duguhoy Rebellion, considered as the longest uprising recorded in the annals of the Philippine history, led by Francisco Duguhoy from 1744, lasting until the year 1829. The Americans, led by Major Henry Hale of the 44th Infantry Battalion, arrived in Tagbilaran on March 17, 1990. Governor, vice governor, provincial board member, congressman, mayor, vice mayor, and councilor in Bohol are considered Fat dynastic. Since 2010, Fat dynasties has occupied these key positions in Bohol. The province of Bohol have been ruled by political dynasties over the past decades. The following are the most common surname of elected officials in 2016. The Chatos clan recent prominence in the Bohol politician scene started in 1988 with Edgardo Chatos serving as mayor. Since then, several members of the clan have recently occupied various positions such as governor, house member, mayor, and vice mayor.
It's kind of like having your parents, grandparents, and even your cousins all going to the same school. But some people think it's important to have different people in charge so that everyone gets a chance to help run the island. So, Bohol has a lot of history with these political families, and it's important to think about how this affects the way the island is run.
After the political perspective, let's move on to cultural perspective.
Cultural perspective. The Filipino First policy. It is a policy that prioritizes Filipino-made products and services in the Philippine economy. The history of Filipino First policy. First introduced by President Carlos P. Garcia in the year 1957 to 1961. It was dismantled by President Diosdado Macapagal, reincorporated into the 1987 Constitution. Supreme Court ruling in 1997. The Supreme Court ruled that the Filipino First policy is a mandatory and enforceable part of the Constitution. It requires preferences for qualified Filipinos in granting economic rights, privileges, and concessions. Current policy. The Tatak Pinoy or Proudly Filipino Law, Republic Act 11981, aims to promote and establish high-value Filipino goods and services, improve export performance, and prioritize domestic products and government procurement. Economic growth. Increased economic activity and the value of the peso, reducing interest rate and inflation. Boholano culture in the Philippines is all about respect, working together, and being strong. Families are very important, with lots of love and respect for older family members.
Bohol, Philippines faces many challenges. Its population is growing rapidly, putting a strain on resources on the environment. The elderly population is also increasing, requiring more healthcare and support services. Infrastructure is inadequate, roads are poor, electricity is expensive, and water supplies are limited and often contaminated, leading to high rates of illnesses. Tourism, while promising, is underdeveloped. Poverty is widespread, leading to malnutrition. There are limited job opportunities, and local governments struggle to generate enough revenue to provide basic services. Bohol needs a plan to solve its problem. This plan should focus on these which are also part or included in 17 Sustainable Development Goals or the SDG. Smaller families. Teach people about family planning and give women more opportunities so they don't feel the need for many children. Sustainable Development Goal number 1. It aims to prevent or end poverty in all its form everywhere. Better roads, electricity, and water. Fix road, find cleaner energy sources, and improve water system to prevent sickness. Sustainable Development Goal number 6. It ensures access to water and sanitation for all. Sustainable Development number 7. It is about ensuring access to clean and affordable energy, which is key to the development of agriculture, business, communications, education, healthcare, and transportation. Sustainable Development Goal number 9. It seeks to build resilient infrastructure, promote sustainable industrialization, and foster innovation. Sustainable Development Goal number 11. It is about making cities and human settlements inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. Cities represent the future of global living. More jobs. Improve tourism. Help farmers use better methods and support small businesses. Sustainable Development Goal number 8 is about promoting inclusive and sustainable economic growth, employment, and decent work for all. Sustainable Development Goal number 12 is about ensuring sustainable consumption and production of patterns. Healthier people, build more health clinics, help families to feed their children better, and help the elderly. Sustainable Development Goal number 3. It aspires to ensure health and well-being for all. Stronger local government. Train local leaders to manage money better and find new ways to make money for the community. Sustainable Development Goal number 16 is about promoting peaceful and inclusive societies. Sustainable Development Goal number 17 is about revitalizing the global partnership for sustainable development. This plan needs everyone to work together. People have to be more practical and start thinking about what are there to be passed down to the future generations. Is Bohol even present in 300 years later? And many possible scenarios.
We can correlate these possibilities to the song of 𝐵𝒪𝐻𝒪𝐿's Tatsulok. The song Tatsulok or Triangle criticizes social injustice in the Philippines. The triangle represents the country's hierarchy, the wealthy and powerful at the top, the poor at the bottom. The song says that as long as the powerful stays on top, corruption and unfairness will continue. The poor are often blamed of crimes they didn't commit, and their lives are seen less valuable. The song calls on the poor tutoy to fight for their rights and for the fairer society where everyone has a chance, not just the rich and powerful. And also, the song Masdan Mo Ang Kapaligiran by Asin, the song Masdan Mo Ang Kapaligiran or Look at the Environment is about environmental pollution, particularly air and water pollution caused by people's carelessness with garbage. The song warns that this pollution will harm not only the present but also future generations, and that unless we act now to protect nature, we will leave nothing good for our children and grandchildren.
This can vary with the political, cultural, anthropological, and sociological perspective in the Bohol. If we want to have a fair community, greener community, and much more sustainable community, we have to elect or choose people who is with its people, not against.